Well, this is my first plant-based talks in English because I'm here with Jason. He's one of the barbers at Schorem. That's such a Dutch name for you to pronounce, right?
Yeah, Schorem.
Schorem.
I can do it okay.
Yeah.
Schorem and then we have Rosel, and that one is really hard as well.
Because where are you from? Where are you from?
So I'm from the United States.
Yeah.
New Jersey. So right outside New York City on the East Coast.
Okay.
East portion.
When did you turn vegan?
It's actually about this time 9 years ago. So
Oh,
I've been
wow.
vegan, yeah, I've been vegan since 2011.
Yeah.
It was, I was 13. I remember we were eating a chicken and dumpling soup, and I was eating it, and I just had this moment where I was like, this isn't right. And I look up from the soup, and I'm like, yeah, Mom, I'm going vegan after this. And she never made it again. That was very traumatizing for her. But that was it. And there was probably a flux period about like maybe 10 days where I tried to do the vegetarian thing and the pescatarian. But then I was like, no, there's no way.
Wow, that's pretty impressive at that age.
Yeah, it was definitely, when it comes to teenage rebellions, probably one of the better ones. It's probably one that most people could hope for.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just talked a little bit about veganism, etc. And I know you and bees.
Yeah.
I have a thing.
Yeah, because bees are... honey isn't vegan in the way that it does come from animals.
Yeah.
But with like collapsing bee populations worldwide, bees also produce so much like necessary labor in our societies that to some level the management of bee communities can be what leads to bees' survival. Because bee colonies, they're collapsing, there's colony collapse disorder. There are also huge issues when it comes to pollination because wild bee populations are disappearing, partly due to the honeybee farming that leads to honey that we consume. As well as there's honey that is farmed ethically, where the bees are left to do their thing and the excess is gathered. And then there's honey that's farmed unethically, where the queen's wings are clipped, they're smoked out, it's terrible for the bees. So when you look at collapsing bee populations, when something collapses, and they do this in any tier of society, managing it a little bit can help reinforce the communities, help make sure that bees survive. And bees' survival is integral to human survival. So on some level you can say, yeah, maybe it is, in a big picture, okay to do this one bad thing because it will make the rest of the world function. But at the same time, can the ends justify the means when the ends are production of the means? In which case, then you can make the decision about honey. But it's the industry that has made it evil.
Yeah.
If you have bees and you like bee farming, and the bees live this beautiful life, and it means that every single one of your neighbor has the most beautiful flowers in the world. The honey oozes out of the hive. You put a little in your tea. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's the industry that makes it wrong.
So what did the veganism part give to you as like a positive thing?
Well, you know, and this is something that my milk allergy did as well, is you really learn to look at food. And that can really, in so many ways, improve your ability to enjoy food.
Yeah.
As well as, like, I mean, I was a teenager at the time too. I had horrible acne that got better once I went vegan.
Really? Because of the milk? Did you skip the milk?
No, yeah, it was some of it with the amount of, just the way stuff was produced, your body just functions better when you kind of get all this gunk out of it.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that very early on I noticed a difference in.
Yeah.
And it gives you a bit of an identity as well, which is quite nice, a bit of a movement to be a part of. And that's something I can say for a lot of new vegans, that getting involved in some form of a vegan community can be hugely helpful.
Yeah. But I also think that sometimes vegans amongst each other can be pretty bitchy though.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you get the vegan police going around like, oh, well, that's not vegan, or that's not ethical, that's not right. When, again, going back to the idea of veganism as an ethical decision, it's one choice in leading an ethical life. So you are constantly being confronted with how do I manage my vegan choice with the most ethical choice in the situation. And that's where I think the vegan police get a little bit too hardline. Because like, say you already own something. You've owned, and maybe Rob talked about it in his interview, this leather jacket for 30 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it going to do anything to throw it out, to say, no, you can't wear that anymore? No, it's not. It's just going to mean that more animals are hurt because you have to go out and you have to buy something that is eventually, that's creating more waste. It would be a much less ethical decision to throw out the jacket as opposed to continue to wear this in the name of sustainability, and anything to do with sustainability has to do with animal rights.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so they definitely can get bitchy.
And when you went vegan for the first time, because you were pretty young, What kind of reactions did you receive next to your mother's trauma?
Oh man, it was people would come up to me chewing meat, like just
Yeah.
5 centimeters from my face because they thought it was the funniest thing to get like chicken spit on my face and stuff like that. And you get a lot of shit for it. And I mean, and every vegan knows this, for every word I say about veganism, I get 10 words about how I'm too preachy and I'm too loud and I'm too much of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you sit quietly, they're like, oh, you're one of the good vegans. And it's like, are you kidding me, man?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to do that about any other like functioning belief system, you would be labeled with, there's the most horrendous phrases, but vegans just constantly take this shit from people.
Mm-hmm.
Like over the last 10 years, people's perception of veganism has changed substantially.
Totally.
So I was there 9 years ago when there were no vegan products, there were no vegan cheeses, there was anything that was milk-free in the dairy department was marketed to people who had allergies. Anything that was meat-free, it was uncommon, and it was not a substitute. It was a replacement. It was something like a black bean burger instead of a meat burger, which is great, but it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the perception of it has changed so much. So I'm getting actually much more positive feedback as of late. We're all going to be vegan eventually. When you look at the statistics and the way climate change and everything is going, and the steps we need to take, is we're not on a stable trajectory, and veganism is an important part in rerouting ourselves to a longer future.
Yeah. And do you have particular brands that are in the US that you're like, we need to have it over here ASAP?
I would like to get the whole Beyond line, and I'd like to get it at US prices, because it's a lot cheaper.
Is it?
It's a lot cheaper in the US. I think the burgers were like, it was like $4, as opposed to €6.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the import. And the €2 makes a difference, for sure.
It does.
I miss Daiya cheese as well. But yeah, well, when it comes to melting, that was like the nacho cheese for me. I always would do, they do like a pepper jack vegan cheese, and it was perfect for nachos. I think that one is super cool. I'm trying to think most of the brands like you have them here.
So if you were a vegan teacher, a teacher in vegan, what would your first lesson be?
I don't know, this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is that necessarily the vegan decision is not maybe always the most ethical decision. And it's important that we always think about that. Because, famously, Oreos are the vegan cookie. No animal products in Oreos. But the consequences of eating an Oreo would, without a doubt, go against pretty much every vegan principle. The palm oil is, while not an animal product, leads to massive home loss for animals, deforestation, devastating consequences. The cocoa industry, horrific human cost, horrifying industry. The shipping and production of the plastic, while being vegan, more vegan than an egg that someone got out of their backyard with happy chickens, is it the more ethical thing to do than the egg out of someone's backyard who's raising chickens? I would say no. And that's where I think that it's important for vegans to learn that this is a constant choice, and it's a choice about how you live your life. But you also have to be aware that it's maybe not always the only choice. Yeah. And that's why I think it gets a little bit more complex.
So you will have the vegans and the sustainable vegans, or
who make
decisions based on what you're talking about.
Yeah, is you meet some vegans who they do it for the environment. Yeah. In which case, to them, buying Beyond sausage from the U.S. is worse than buying locally raised meat, because locally raised meat is from a cow that had a plot of land that's always been in the Netherlands. It's 5 kilometers from where you buy it at the supermarket. That has a smaller environmental footprint than this piece of processed packaged meat that you got all the way from California in the U.S. So that's where it gets really complex. That's where I think that's where veganism will go in the future, is that there will be vegan options, but I don't necessarily think that there will be as many vegans.
What is your biggest advice that you would give from somebody who's, dabbling a little bit in vegan pond, but really wants to go vegan?
You got to make vegan friends. The same way that like when you start a new job or you're starting in a new school or something, you want that one person who gets it without you having to explain everything, and can just feel the same frustrations you feel and feel the same joys you feel. You need that person.
I love that.
You need a vegan friend. You need someone who, some guy at work was laying into you about your veganism, that you can just go, oh, this fucking asshole. Yeah. And you don't have to explain why it sucks. You don't want some moral talk where they're like, well, people have different perspectives. You just want someone that says, yeah, that sucks.
You need your supporter.
Yeah. And you need someone, and you just need to get excited about it. Is even if you make mistakes and stuff early on, Like, if you're just becoming vegan, go out to eat a little bit more. Because you should be trying delicious vegan food. You shouldn't be struggling to get delicious vegan food in the kitchen. Buy a vegan cookbook that excites you. You're not going to be successful unless you get excited and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Great tip. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, I had such a good time being here, and I'm so glad I didn't have to do this in Dutch. I'm very sorry, but I definitely couldn't have.
You're welcome.